They said the Sultanate of Sulu was gone, but one dawn in 2013, 200... They came armed not for conquest, but for remembrance hell, carrying the flag of a kingdom erased from maps.
To them, it wasn't an invasion. It was homecoming.
They called it Lahad Datu, the last stand of a vanished empire. But the storm began centuries earlier, when maps were redrawn by hands that never touched these shores.
Long before colonies and crowns, there was Sulu, a kingdom of sailors, traders, and warriors.
Its wealth lay not in land, but in sea, in pearls, spice, and the loyalty of the Tausug.
The Sultan ruled not by walls, but by tide. His reach measured in waves, not borders. From the coasts of Borneo to Palawan, every port paid tribute to Sulu's seal.
This was an oceanic kingdom, invisible to maps, undeniable to history.
Its power flowed through trade and faith, linking Arabia, China, and the Malay world. They called it Darul Islam, Durak, the abode of peace, where law met legend. In the 15th century, the Sultanate rose, its throne blessed by Mecca, feared by Manila.
But beneath the gold, ambition simmered, and across the sea, another empire stirred.
Spain had arrived proud, bearing cross, gunpowder, and paper treaties.
At first, they came to trade, then to claim.
The first treaties promised friendship and took sovereignty instead.
For 3 centuries, the empire and the Sultanate danced between war and alliance.
Every truce signed was a pause before betrayal. By the late 1800s, they called it pacification. The locals called it occupation.
But the Sulu throne never fully bowed. The cream. Its influence lived on in exile and oath.
Every village carried a rumor that the Sultan would return.
Faith held what politics lost.
These stones were once a palace, where power was whispered, not written.
The jungle remembers, where empires forget. Each mark, a memory of kings erased from textbooks.
History wasn't lost. It was buried beneath treaties and tides.
Empires wrote their version. The sea kept its own.
But Sulu never vanished. It adapted.
Where fishermen now cast nets, once stood fleets of war. The descendants of sailors still follow tides older than nations.
They live atop the bones of forgotten kings. Faith endures where empires fade. Gold became trade. Power became memory.
They speak of treaties signed in languages no one remembers.
Yeah. Proof that once Sulu's seal was currency, not curiosity.
They whisper names now lost to archives. Jamalul, Badaruddin, Kiram.
Every name a world, once believed eternal.
But eternity bends to ink and empire.
When the British and Spanish left, new powers arrived, with flags and contracts.
In 1878, a lease was signed, hoping the deal that would haunt centuries.
The British North Borneo Company took what was never theirs to sell.
The ink dried. The kingdom bled quietly.
Empires ended, but their ghosts remained under you, bound by signatures, not swords.
What was once leased became inherited, passed like treasure through colonial hands.
No army conquered Sulu. It was signed away in rooms where no sultan stood.
A single word, Toshan, lease, one legion, became a century's confusion.
When the British left, Malaysia inherited the claim. The Philippines, the memory.
Two nations, one contract, and a ghost kingdom caught between them.
The world moved on, but the Sulu heirs did not.
They still believe the debt is unpaid, that the lease was never a sale.
For over 100 years, rent was sent, coins for sovereignty.
Then the payments stopped. The silence was louder than any war. In 2013, the heirs answered that silence.
200 followers sailed to Lahad Datu, carrying an old flag and an older claim.
They were fishermen, veterans, sons of the sea, Hayai. Not an army, but a statement.
Malaysia called it an intrusion. They called it a return.
For 3 weeks, bullets answered history.
When the guns fell silent, the dead outnumbered the remembered.
Decades after the gunfire, the island still wakes to the same tide, the same prayers.
For the Tausug, the sea is history, ubral, vast, giving, and merciless.
The graves of sultans lie unguarded, their names fading, their legacy whispered.
Power, once carved in coral and gold, has been reclaimed by roots and silence.
She speaks of kings and treaties, of a land that stretched from sea to sea.
They don't ask where the kingdom went. They only ask why no one remembers it.
In the capital, the Sultanate is a rumor pile, a paragraph in books few read.
But sometimes, a story refuses to stay buried.
The borders we trust today were born from ink, greed, and compromise.
He searches for meaning in words written by men long dead.
Sulu's heirs still fight Brinkley, not for power, but for acknowledgement.
They call him the last true Sultan, but history may disagree.
Faith endures where kingdoms fall.
Time is patient. Justice is not.
Every wave carries the story forward, reshaped, retold, reborn.
He doesn't know the flag he paints once ruled half this sea.
History survives not in museums, but in hands that still work, still remember.
They still face the same horizon Paju, the border that was once their heartland.
They say they are Filipinos, but their grandparents called themselves subjects of the Sultan.
The lines look solid on paper, but they cut through living families.
Sovereignty is a story, a trait, told by those with the louder voice. But in these islands, whispers are louder than proclamations.
Empires collapse. People endure.
To honor the past is not to resurrect it, Lahad, but to remember its cost.
Every name, a world once believed eternal.
Commerce replaced conquest. Profit replaced pride.
They walk on the bones of forgotten kings.
The waters of Sulu still remember who they once served.
Two nations, one past, forever entangled, forever denying it.
Every reflection in that glass is part of the debt unpaid. Lawyers argue ownership. The sea laughs quietly in the distance.
No verdict can rewrite what blood once declared. Justice, like empire, bleeds when stretched too thin. Only the wind carries the verdict of time.
Here, beneath the surface, the old borders sleep.
A relic of a crown that ruled an ocean, now home to coral and silence.
Even the deep remembers.
The Sultanate of veins became shipping lanes. Its faith turned into history.
Modern nations rose closer, powerful, confident, carving on forgotten foundations.
But every closed door leaves an echo behind it.
In every century, the Sulu story returns us, renamed, reframed, unresolved.
History is not a straight line. It is a tide that turns.
You can draw borders on land, but never on water.
He pushes it into the waves, not knowing he's repeating history.
Perhaps that's how kingdoms survive, Hans, as stories retold by those who never knew they ruled.
The Sultanate of Sulu lives Kopalu, not in politics, but in mema, in myth, in tide.
Empires die when they forget what they were. Sulu endures because it remembers.
Every dawn, the same vow. To live free. To remember who we are.
1,000 sails proud, echoes of 1,000 warriors.
The past is never gone. It only changes form.
Listen closely, and you can still hear the march of the Sultan's fleet.
The last sultanate never surrendered Gendi. It was swallowed by time.
The faith that built it still whispers verses into the salt air.
A kingdom without borders. A people without forgetting.
Empires vanish. Oceans endure.
And somewhere in the deep, the Sultan's name still echoes, unclaimed, undefeated.
The kingdom of Sulu lives on, not in power, but in remembrance.
Decades after the gunfire, the tide returns fame, eternal, indifferent, forgiving.
Children rise to the same wind that once carried royal band.
Faith endures, even when kingdoms don't.
The sea takes, the sea gives. Always the same covenant.
What was empire becomes memory carried. What was memory becomes life again.
Every generation adds a verse to the same unfinished song.
The story doesn't end with the last Sultan Hussein.
Even the fish swim paths, once known to royal fleets. The sea keeps its own archive, written not in ink, but in motion.
Every wave that breaks here carries centuries in its breath.
The past does not sleep. It waits beneath the waves.
The Sultanate's end was never its extinction, Renkiki, only its transformation.
Between those islands lie stories no empire could erase.
Each reef, each current is a line of memory, not a border.
And so the last Sultanate drifts beyond history, alive in the tide.
Time does not heal kingdoms. It only teaches their silence to sing.
Somewhere beyond this horizon, the past still breathes.
They called it the Sultanate of Sulu, a realm of pearls, faith, and storms.
Its people still face the same sea their ancestors ruled.
They laugh, unaware they walk on history's bones.
The tide carries away footprints, but not the story beneath them.
Even eroded prayers remember who spoke them first.
Among ruins, the ghosts of rulers still whisper, treaties never honored.
Every symbol, a promise, half kept, half forgotten.
The last Sultan prayed for unity, not conquest, not revenge.
But the smoke rose to indifferent heavens.
Faith endured, though thrones crumbled.
Empires write in ink. Faith writes in air.
And even air remembers.
Once, this shore echoed with cannons and coronations.
Now it hums with prayers and trade, the rhythm unchanged for centuries.
Where swords once ruled, nets now feed.
The empire ended, but the life it sustained never did.
The lines drawn by strangers still divide, but the sea ignores them.
He doesn't know. These waters once belonged to a sultan.
History overlaps like waves upon waves.
Every current carries fragments of what was lost.
Empires fall. Oceans forgive.
Forgiveness is the tide in Said, always returning, never forgetting.
Those islands were once cities of kings, now villages of fishermen.
Nature took the throne on, quietly, patiently.
Time crowns no one, yet spares the faithful.
Coral rebuilds what conquest destroyed.
The deep sea is the true historian.
It remembers not the victors, but the persistence of life.
Above and below, the story continues to few, unseen, unending.
History drifts like rain across the sea, falling, vanishing, remembered again.
The Sultanate's legacy is not ownership, but endurance.
And endurance is the truest power. Empires fade. The tide remains.
Voices of descendants who carry name.
They return each day to the same promise seen. The sea provides. The sea remembers.
Some stories survive because the world itself refuses to forget them.
The Sultanate of Sulu is one such story.
Its empire fell, but its echo fills every tide. This is where the last sultanate sleeps, Cleaver, not buried, but breathing.
Faith endures where kings cannot.
And in the silence between waves, history whispers its final verse.
Empires end when memory ends, Guy. And this one still remembers.
The kingdom of Sulu still lives, not in power, but in the endless tide that will never bow.